Thanks, guys. Hi, I'm Jonathan. I'm one of the co-founders of Talisman, and as Alex mentioned, I want to talk about how Polkadot enables a trailblazing wallet stack. And we're going to do this by first asking the question, what is the role of the wallet in Polkadot? And then explain how Talisman fulfills this role with the technology that Polkadot has given us. And then I want to give a quick product update about something that we've been working on this year. And then lastly, I want to show you guys how you can get involved with the project as a newcomer to the ecosystem. But first, for those that don't know Talisman, we are a group of we're a product-oriented crew helping users traverse the Paraverse with ease via our extension wallet and our web portal. We kind of bring product rigor to the ecosystem via these two products. And our extension wallet has over 30,000 users and is available on, or it supports, over 150 different networks across both Substrate and the Ethereum environments. And our web portal allows you to, sorry, I'm a bit nervous. It allows you to look at your portfolio across the ecosystem and participate in different opportunities like crowd loans and transferring assets across different networks. And we've also launched a staking product, which has garnered over 50% of the market share in the nomination pool staking environment. And one thing which is a little known fact about the web portal is that actually 40% of the usage on the web portal is via a mobile device. So these are users that are either looking at the portal via a dApp browser and submitting the extrinsics, or they're actually entering their address via just a string, and that's a watched address so that they can look at their portfolio on the move. And finally, I'm pleased to share that the Talisman extension wallet is now joining the web portal in being open source. This is a really important milestone for both us and the ecosystem, since the ability to verify the source code that you're interacting with is a really important tenet of Web3. So we're proud to kind of introduce the Talisman extension into the open source ecosystem this week. So what is the role of the wallet in Web3? To help answer this question, I want to have this diagram, which we're going to refer back to quite a bit in the talk. And this is a really simple representation of the stack of technologies that a user is going to be interacting with when they're using the Polkadot network. You've got some P2P and networking code down here. The Polkadot protocol and the parachains are kind of implementing some business logic here. You might have some middleware like data index and block explorers. And then finally, the users are spending most of their time interacting with wallets and dApps. And if I was to kind of ask the question, what is the role of the wallet in this stack? We broadly get an answer that's kind of in one of two categories. Firstly, somebody might say, the role of the wallet is to bring in all of the users. And that's because Polkadot provides the block space, parachains provide some business kind of functionality or some application functionality. Therefore, as the part of the stack that users are interacting with the most, it's the wallet's job to provide the users to the ecosystem. And the second kind of bucket of answer that we might find someone kind of give to the answer to this question is, it's the wallet's job to make things easy. Because if it's not easy, then people won't use Polkadot. And it doesn't matter how good Polkadot is if users cannot use it. Therefore, it is the wallet's job to make Polkadot easy to use. And at Talisman, we agree with this. The staking dashboard is a really good example of us taking some functionality that's on the network, making it easy, and introducing a lot of new users to the ecosystem. We launched this in November, and since then, over 4,000 individual wallets have joined nomination pool staking and contributed over $2.5 million to the ecosystem that wasn't previously staked. But I think there's something more. There's a little more that a wallet has to do that's beside the 2 points we mentioned earlier. And I want to revisit this quote. It doesn't matter how good Polkadot is if users cannot use it. I think it was Kian from the Parity team that said this once upon a time. And today I want to extend this quote to make a point, and that is, it's the role of the wallet to kind of say, it doesn't matter how good Polkadot is if users cannot use it in a way that's coherent with the strengths of the network. So Polkadot has many amazing characteristics and architecture, and it doesn't matter how good it is if the layer in which the user is interacting with Polkadot doesn't inherit and provide those strengths to the user. And there are kind of two buckets of strengths I want to talk about today. Firstly, Web3 values, and secondly, the multi-chain ecosystem. So let's talk about Web3 values. There are some amazing principles and characteristics of the Polkadot stack that live down here. It's verifiable, decentralized, and promotes self-sovereignty and censorship resistance. And it's the role of the wallet to inherit these characteristics and bring them to the user in a way that's coherent, so that it doesn't just stop here and then the user's using the internet as if they were in Web 2. And the lens that I want to explain how Polkadot enables this and how Talisman have kind of inherited these principles and given them to the user is via the transaction experience. So here are some screenshots or designs of some wallet approval screens that are live in Talisman at the moment. They're mainly for pre-compiles on Moonbeam, but if you're using some different substrate palettes, you'll see this kind of thing now. We shipped this today. And at first glance, I think someone would say, gee, this is pretty great. I can be a bit of a simpleton and very quickly and naturally understand what the contents of my transaction is and whether or not it's the same as what I wanted to do on the dApp right before I'm past the point of no return and I press the approve button. And this is amazing because it's a really natural user experience that your grandma could use. But what is particularly notable is what's going on underneath the hood. Firstly, it's verifiable. I mean, the power of Web3 is in its verifiability. And this provides the user a means and allows the user to kind of learn the action of verifying what they're doing when they're using the internet. And secondly, it's a generalized support model. This works with every single extrinsic on every single palette in Substrate, and that's because by just taking the metadata, using that to decode the transaction, and then showing some information inside of the approval modal. If we haven't got a specific bespoke UI, you're still going to see some decoded information about the transaction inside of Talisman every single time. So there's no need to upload some smart contract source code, verify an API or something. It just works with every single extrinsic on Substrate. And then lastly, if the dApp is running a small .light client, the user is in a position where they are their own peer on the peer-to-peer network. So they are querying the metadata from themselves, using Talisman to decode the transaction and verify the contents in a lovely UI like this, and submitting that transaction on the light client that they're running. And this is really, really brilliant. I think we're still a little bit away from the ceiling of what's possible here with transaction comprehension and verifiability with Polkadot and Talisman. But I would challenge anybody to find a stack and find an ecosystem that blazes the trail for wallets in the same way that Polkadot has for Talisman here. So Talisman are really proud to kind of inherit the principles of verifiability and decentralization and implement it inside of our experience. And this is an important part of the role that we have to play in the ecosystem. So back to this diagram. I have to make an amendment to this because a lot of users don't see Polkadot like this, and we as a wallet certainly don't see Polkadot like this sometimes. It looks a little bit more like this. That's because we have a really, really rich multi-chain ecosystem with its own characteristics and opportunities and quirks that it's important that are kind of bubbled up through the wallet layer and towards the user. And what are these? I mean, there are 90+ parachains. XDM is playing more and more of a role in the ecosystem for the user. You can pay fees in different tokens, Polkadot Vault. There's not really a concept of wrapped assets. And of course, there are different environments on parachains that are deploying the EVM. So how have we inherited these principles and given the user an experience that reflects what the network is doing? An example of a multi-chain design language inside of Talisman is the fact that there has never been an active network inside of the wallet. Polkadot is a multi-chain ecosystem, and your accounts should be multi-chain first. We also have kind of recently flipped the abstractions inside of the portfolio view on its head inside of Talisman, where instead of saying, given a network, what assets do I have on it? We say, given an asset, where is it? Which networks is it on? You can see here for DOT, it's on 5 or 6 different networks in this design. And then when people talk about what's the enabling technology that allows Talisman to create an interface like this, which is really naturally multi-chain, people often say it's XCM, because XCM is the means by which you can transfer tokens across different chains. But I'd like to add to that that the fact that there's not many wrapped assets in the ecosystem also allows us to do something like this. You know, when I transfer dot to HydraDX, I don't end up with HDX dot. I just have dot. And in this way, we can present the user the Polkadot ecosystem in one page instead of 90 different parachains on 90 different pages. And we've continued this design with the transaction history and NFT portfolio inside of the Talisman portal. We've built some infrastructure and tooling to surface this to the user in a really, really easy way. And this is another example of where Talisman is multi-chain first and showing the user that Polkadot is one large ecosystem. But it isn't without its challenges. And in cases where we have to engineer around some quirks, we have a design principle at Talisman of always clarify, don't simplify. So one example is that, and many people would know this, there are many different formats your address can be in for one account in Polkadot. And instead of kind of shooing this away from the user and not ever showing them, we won't show it in the portfolio, but whenever you want to receive some assets or copy your address to send it to somebody else, we'll show you every single address format you have across the ecosystem, and you can select which is most relevant for the moment. There are also some kind of more single-chain account types inside of the Polkadot ecosystem with devices like Ledger and Polkadot Vault. And in instances like this, instead of jamming those accounts into the same multi-chain abstraction that we have inside of the wallet, we've done a really well-intentioned and detailed job of integrating this in a nice way so that the user can understand exactly which accounts they can use on which networks. And something that's coming soon is the ability to group accounts into folders inside of Talisman. This is really useful for the accounts that you have in Ledger and Polkadot Vault, but also in instances where you're using the EVM a lot and you're transferring assets between an account on Moonbeam and then an account on Polkadot. And really, these two separate key pairs are treated as one bucket of accounts. You can reflect that and clarify that to yourself within Talisman with account grouping very, very soon. So that concludes a section on what I think the role of the wallet is in the ecosystem. It's to bubble up the unique characteristics of Polkadot through the wallet stack and towards the user so that they can interact with Polkadot in the way that it was intended. And I want to talk about another product that inherits this philosophy. It's called Cygnet. This is the result of a treasury proposal that we put together earlier this year. And it's a way to master organization coordination in Polkadot with a really easy-to-use multi-sig dashboard. Inside of Cygnet, we're going to be supporting the multi-sig palette that's available on a lot of substrate chains. And anybody that's used this will know there are a lot of pain points. But with Cygnet, a lot of these are kind of eradicated. There'll be cool data sharing inside of Cygnet. So anybody that's tried to initiate a multi-signature transaction with their mate and then forgotten to send the core data to them, they forgot to copy it in the first place. This is all happening automatically inside of Cygnet. There's instant onboarding, so you don't need to program your wallet, the 9 signatories that are on the multi-sig. It's just instant, and it needs to happen once for everybody. And you can craft different extrinsics inside of Cygnet, so you don't need to use Polkadot.js apps in some instances to initiate a transaction with your peers. And this product also inherits some of the tooling and infrastructure that we've built for other products at Talisman, where we have a multi-chain portfolio view, much like in the web portal and in the extension, as well as a multi-chain transaction history, so that if you're managing multi-sigs across different networks, you can see the transaction history for your whole organization in one place. And the transaction decoding that I spoke about earlier will also be present inside of Cygnet. Now, one thing that I want to mention is something which might have flown under the radar recently, but it's really important to kind of shine light on this. And that's the fact that Talisman has been a community-oriented product since its inception. You know, before we had a version of the wallet on the Chrome Web Store, we had the Talisman Sentinels program. It's a community-oriented team that are currently doing areas of kind of user support, where they've triaged 70, 80 tickets this year, providing product quality as part of our product kind of implementation process, where they'll get early access to Talisman builds to test it before we ship it public. And they'll produce content for us. Phase 4 kicked off in March, so we've been iterating this program ever since Talisman started, and it's a really great way to enter the Polkadot ecosystem as somebody that's new. And you can use this as a stepping stone for a long, long career inside of Polkadot. I'm really pleased to share that one of our Sentinels that has been with us from the start is actually attending the Polkadot Academy in California later this year. So we're really pleased to kind of have this on-ramp into the ecosystem via the Sentinels program. But it's also an important part of the Talisman product process now, where they play a really important role in user testing and making sure our products are polished by the time they reach the public market. So that was a presentation on how Polkadot enables a trailblazing wallet stack with principles of verifiability and comprehension and a multi-chain ecosystem, and how Talisman has fulfilled that role with the extension wallet. And you can download that wallet at talisman.xyz. Thank you.